Hey, so it's February 1st. I still have a couple more pages to go until I finish the book. So let's continue on and finish our first book for the year, The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. We stopped at Stop Trying to Be Psychic because this is a cognitive distortion. Given that our most fundamental human fear is of the unknown, it makes sense that we go through mental gymnastics to try to predict certain outcomes in our lives. However, psychic thinking, or the idea that your feelings are premonitions, that you can just know what the future will hold, or that your fate is somewhere set in stone for you, makes you mentally weak. It places you in the passenger seat when you need to be behind the wheel. When you are engaging in psychic thinking, you are extrapolating. You're taking a single feeling or experience and making a long term prediction about your life. It is not only false, it often becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. Stop trying to predict what you can't know and start putting your energy toward building what you can. You and your life will be better for it. Take responsibility for your outcomes. Yes, all of them. In the grand scheme of your life, the outcomes that really matter are the ones that are almost completely within your control. It's easier and less scary to pretend as though you are simply a cog in the wheel, but you're not. If you actually put your energy toward learning to be productive, taking care of your health and wellness, improving your relationships and self awareness, you'd have a radically different life experience. Every single one of those things is within your ability to change or at least influence greatly. There are some things in life that are outside your control. If you focus on them, you will miss something really important. The majority of your life is the direct result of your actions, behaviors, and choices. Learn how to feel better by processing complex emotions. You're not supposed to feel happy all of the time. Trying to feel happy all of the time is not the solution, it's the problem. Instead of the ability to sustain positivity at all times, mental strength requires that you develop the ability to process complex emotions such as grief, rage, sadness, anxiety, or fear. When you do not know how to allow these feelings to pass through you, how to make sense of them, learn from them, or simply just allow them so you get stuck on them, you bury them, and then everything around you becomes a trigger that threatens to unleash the floodgates. You might think it's about keeping a stiff upper lip, but it's not. It's about crying when life is sad, being angry in the face of injustice, and being determined to create a solution when a problem arises. That responsiveness, instead of reactiveness, defines mental strength. Forget what happened and focus on how you will make it right. Reflect on what went wrong, learn from what went wrong, and figure out how you're either going to make up for it or change the outcome in the future. Then let it go. The only time you're not the only time you're going to really hold on to the past is when you haven't fully learned from the past. When you have, you can apply those lessons to the present moment and create what you wanted to experience then. Focusing on what happened disproportionately to what is happening now or what you want to happen in the future is what keeps you completely stuck. Completely stuck. If you feel as though you truly failed yourself in some profound way, it becomes even more crucial that you move on and create the experience you desire now. Your life is not over. You did not fail indefinitely, but you will if you never let go and try again. Talk it out because things are often more complicated in your head. If you feel really tangled up in your thoughts, feelings, and fears, talk to someone, perhaps a mental health professional or a trusted friend. If nobody is around, talk to yourself. Talk out your ideas as though you were speaking to someone else in front of you. Sometimes we need an objective third party to help us sort through complicated parts of life. Keeping it all buried in your head and heart often makes it worse. Letting it out into the open tends to simplify the problem, release the emotion, and help you move on. Take your time because you don't need to figure everything out right now. Growth usually isn't a sweeping thing, it happens incrementally. It occurs in tiny bursts and small steps. This is because when we are growing, we are actually expanding and restructuring our comfort zones. We are readjusting to a new way of life, and if we shock our systems with too much change, if And if we shock our systems with too much change too fast, we often revert back to what we knew. The most effective and healthy way to change your life is slowly. If you need instant gratification, make the goal the tiny step you take each day. Over time, momentum will build and you'll realize that you're miles from where you started. Take triggers as signals because your wounds need your attention. Triggers are not random, they are showing you where you are either most wounded or primed for growth. If we can see these triggers as signals that are trying to help us put our attention toward some part of our lives that needs healing, health, and progress, we can begin to see them as helpful instead of hurtful. You cannot ignore your problems. You cannot disregard your wounds. These are issues that you will need to unpack, process, learn from, and adapt your behavior accordingly. This won't only make you mentally stronger, it will also give you a better quality of life overall. Honor your discomfort because it's trying to tell you something. The greatest gift that life will hand you is discomfort. Discomfort is not trying to punish you, it is trying to show you where you are capable of more, deserving of better, able to change, or meant for greater than you have right now. In almost every case, it is simply informing you that there is more out there for you and it is pushing you to go pursue it. Instead of trying to pacify this discomfort, mental strength requires that you listen, learn, and begin to change your course. If you can begin to see your life as a feedback mechanism, that is reflecting who you are with the ultimate goal to help you live better and more fully, all of a sudden you realize that it was never the world standing in your way, but your own mind. So how to truly enjoy your life? If you were to ask, many people would undoubtedly agree that they believe the purpose of life is to enjoy it. However, so many people struggle to be present and actually experience their lives as they are. The culprits are varied and can include everything from unrealistic expectations to trying too hard to feel good. It is, after all, something you have to allow. When you're struggling, the most insulting and difficult thing that someone can tell you is to just relax or just enjoy yourself. When you're in survival mode, the last thing you can possibly think about is just sitting back and rolling with the punches. This is the most important part of learning how to enjoy your life again. When you're in a place of trauma and pain, you can't try to force yourself to be happy. First, you have to step back into neutral. When you're struggling and you try to make yourself feel good, you are actually intensifying the polarity of your feelings. You're shoving the bad feeling down in place of trying to feel something different. Ironically, many people who struggle emotionally are, at their core, people who actually just have a greater desire to enjoy life. So stop trying to be happy. Happiness is not something you can chase. It is something you have to allow. This likely will come as a surprise to many people, as the world is so adamant about everything from positive psychology to motivational Pinterest boards. But happiness is not something you can coach yourself into. Happiness is your natural state. That means you will return to it on your own if you allow the other feelings you want to experience to come up, be felt, be processed, and not resisted. The less you resist your unhappiness, the happier you will be. It is often just trying too hard to feel one certain way that sets us up for failure. Arrive into the present. There's a saying that if you're anxious, it's because you're living in the future, and if you're depressed, it's because you're living in the past. When you're living in the present moment, you realize that both the past and future are just current illusions of the infinite, eternal now, and that there are actually ways in which you can avoid being in your body. The only place to find happiness is in the present because that's the only place it truly exists. Trying to find happiness by focusing on what could or might happen in the future is actually a process of disassociation. Practice arriving into today by focusing on taking life one day at a time and doing the most with what you have in front of you currently. There's a fine balance between living for the moment and taking care of your future self. Stop trying to assert dominance. In his book on Hygge, the Danish art of coziness and well-being that many attribute to the nation's staggeringly high happiness rates, Meg Wiking explains that connecting with others is not just spending time with them. It has to do with not trying to dominate, impress, or create an emotional reaction in someone. You find a lot more happiness by not trying to prove yourself. People who want and need to assert their dominance in relationships are the ones who are always in arguments over hypothetical things, creating drama at important holidays or events, or otherwise finding that the very people they are supposed to love and cherish most receive the worst of their behavior. In order to find greater happiness, you need to see yourselves you need to see yourself as an equal to those around you. When you view yourself in a position to constantly learn from all those you know, you are no longer compensating for fearing you are beneath them. Okay. Lean into the little joys when you find them. When we think of trying to enjoy life, it's common for our minds to jump to trying to achieve things that are huge, overwhelmingly highs. We think that being happy is only what happens when we're on vacation or just landed a huge bonus. This, however, is actually the opposite of happiness because it's conditional. True happiness is embracing the little joys in life: the sunrise on a warm summer morning, your cup of coffee, or an amazing book. It is being grateful not only for when big things happen, but also for the small satisfactions that you can find every day. Most people severely overthink happiness. They assume their lives have to be in perfect working order for them to experience real joy. This is not so. Real joy is finding happiness where you are and how you are. Nurture positive relationships when you have them. Regardless of whether or not you are introverted or extroverted, the quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life experiences. Tons of research backs this up. We become most like the people we spend time with, and our happiness is directly correlated with not the quantity of relationships we have, but the quality of each of them. Being lonely is as much of a risk to your health as smoking. However, what most people interpret this to mean is that they should just make friends where they can find them and be close to their biological family, even if they dislike them. That's totally missing the point. Happiness is not contingent upon you forcing relationships you don't want to be in. It is, however, contingent upon you building and fostering relationships with people you really like and who add value to your life. When you meet someone with whom you have a connection, go out of your way to make sure you see that person and keep your family and sorry. Make sure you see that person and keep your friendship healthy. Learn something new as often as you can. When you approach life as though you already know all there is to know, you're actually closing yourself off to potentially having new and better experiences. If you assume that you know what will happen when you try something new, or if you think you know what places you haven't been to would be like, you might just want to leave some room to surprise yourself. Think of life as something you can constantly learn from. Your pain teaches you what does not feel good and what you should not continue to do. Your joy teaches you that your joy teaches you what is in alignment. Everything can be your teacher, and the more you allow your life experiences to shift and change you, the better you and they will become. See challenging times as opportunities for transformation. Happy people aren't joyful all the time, and this is an important distinction to make. In fact, genuinely happy people are more at peace than they are ecstatic about everything they experience. This is because happy people are inherently coachable and changeable. They are not stuck in their ways. They understand that life requires growth, and when that growth stagnates, discomfort begins to rise. The true nature of life is constant movement and constant evolution. If you do not keep up with that, life will all but force you to change as it becomes less and less comfortable to stay where you are. You cannot avoid all pain, but you can absolutely avoid a lot of suffering by staying focused on your internal growth. Be aware of what you give your energy to. Sure, most people realize that if they work a job they dislike or stay in relationships they despise for the majority of their lives, they aren't going to feel great about it. What many don't realize, however, is that there are far more significant things that we constantly offer our energy to that create the quality of our lives. Those disliked jobs and stale relationships aren't problems, they are symptoms. And at the root of it all, and at the root of all of it, it is okay, hold on. And at the root of all of it is where you allow your mind to run. And at the root of all of it is where you allow your mind to run. When you give your energy to certain thoughts, they gain life. There's a saying that a wolf that wins is the one that you feed. And when it comes to the quality of your life, you need to be extremely careful of what you allow yourself to think. And it will soon become what you feel, then what you believe, then how you behave, and sure enough, the way you live. Schedule time to do nothing. Happiness is an active pursuit as much as it is a passive one. Though to feel fulfilled each day is absolutely a conscious choice. It isn't going to happen by accident. FYI. The irony of really feeling good is that it's not something you can force, it's something you have to allow. Happiness is refusing to fill your schedule to the absolute brim so you can wring the most you possibly can out of every second of your life. It is also taking time to embrace the mundanity of everyday moments. It's sitting back and reading a book, talking over dinner with someone you love, or just enjoying the small things each day. Taking this time won't happen on its own. You have to plan for it. Schedule time to play. When we were kids, all we did was imagine and play. Our lives were our canvases, and we inherently understood that we could make believe absolutely anything and spend the day living it out. The same is true in adulthood, but over the course of a few decades, the world tends to have a way of beating the magic out of you. If you really want to enjoy life, you have to make time to do what you loved when you were young. Paint, play in the sand, play games you love, and be creative for the sake of it. If that all sounds childish, good. It means you're ready to reconcile with your inner child who is and always has been there all along. Enjoying life is living it out in both the simplest and most transformative ways possible. Part of that is simply letting yourself show up and be who and how you are. Becoming a master of yourself. This is the last part, I believe. When you get to the end of your life, you will begin to see your mountains for what they really are. Gifts. When you look back on your life, you won't remember the hardships. You'll see them then as pivot points, growth opportunities, the ways of awakening right before everything changed. To become a master of oneself is to take radical and complete responsibility for your life. This includes even that which is beyond your control. A master knows that it is not what happens, but the way one responds that determines the outcome. Not everybody gets there. Most people live barely realizing that they are creating most of the waves in their lives and that it is also their job to learn to ride them. Most people spend their days lost in the fog of their own thoughts and feelings, having little ability to sort through them. Mastery is to realize that we are equipped with the exact traits we need to overcome the mountains before us, and in fact, doing so is the ultimate calling of our lives. We are not only capable, we are destined. Mastery is to finally understand that the years of discomfort you endured were not some sort of purgatory you had just get through. They were your deepest inner self informing you that you are capable of more, deserving of better, and meant to transform into the person of your dreams. You must claim it. You must create it. Your own healing process will create an invisible ripple effect on the collective. If we want to change the world, we change ourselves. If we want to change our lives, we change ourselves. If we want to scale the greatest mountains before us, we change how we arrive at the path. When you reach the peak of it all, whatever that may be for you, you will look back and know that every step was worth it. More than anything, you will be overwhelmingly grateful for the pain that led you to begin your journey, because really, it wasn't trying to hurt you as much as it was trying to show you that something was wrong. That something was the risk of your potential remaining untapped. Your life spent with the wrong people, doing the wrong things, and wondering why you never felt quite right. Your life is just beginning. One day, the mountain that was in front of you will also will be so far behind you, it will barely be visible in the distance. But who you become in learning to climb it, that will stay with you forever. That is the point of the mountain. The end. That's my first book. I find it really motivating, the words that she used, the way she explains concepts on how to do it, the solutions that she gives, and how she explains the problems. They are all very, I wouldn't say vague, but they tried their best to give a detailed example to the rest of the book. I love that she added references as well at the back. And, you know, this book is more like an essay to all of the researchers or the authors and the trailblazers to other books. Ryan Holiday, Stephen Hawking, Stephen Covey, all those books about psychology, about life in general. The references she used are something just to help her narrative. And it's true, like, it made me reflect on the things that I was doing in my life and motivates me to do better. So, yeah. Transforming self-sabotage into self-mastery was great. I quite enjoyed it, actually. And I learned a few more things too about how to speak better, enunciating the words more. I feel more confident in the way I talk. And I don't really care much about the appearance of how I look as long as I get my message across. But that is to the viewer if they are watching and seeing to the end of my videos. If you can see the previous videos, how when I first started to how I'm speaking now, I find that the more I practice it, the more present I am when I'm speaking, the more that it grinds my my brain to think of sentences and to develop my message across. So yeah, that's it. There's still more to improve on, but this is just the first month of 2026. There is still more to read, there's still more to learn. And that's it for this video. I know I should have done it last month, but it was fine. I had to give myself some rest, a little break, if you must call it that. And regardless, I only read a couple of pages, so that should do it. I mean, I finished the book regardless. That's what matters anyway. So yes, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.